So yeah, check it out. I'm gonna just leave this chart running for a little bit. Anybody can take a look if they have trouble setting up their own 19 chart. Yeah, check it out. I'm gonna just leave this chart running. I guess that is working. So if you have any questions you want to jump in, I'll be monitoring it. You can hit the link. I'll see you and we can jump in and talk about it. If not, I'm just gonna hang out for a little bit, and then I'll probably cover some information a little later on. But I'm gonna leave this running. Um, I don't know. We'll just see how long I'll leave it running. But yeah, I'll be monitoring, and I'll jump in and drop some information in just a bit. Enjoy the chart. Enjoy your days. Enjoy your holidays if you're a holiday person, and enjoy your prosperity as a result of code and obey. Obviously. So yeah, congratulations to all those participants. We've created a great pool over there. Yeah. So yeah, stand by. All right. I'm gonna cover a little bit of this information. End of the year, I guess we can say kind of mid to end cycle, depending on what your perspective is for this bull run. So I'm gonna cover this end of the year information, and maybe let this chart kind of stay up for, I don't know. We'll see again how long, but I'll cover the information now. Keep a lookout if people jump in. I'll answer any questions. If I don't catch them here, you can always drop your questions on X, and I'll monitor the timeline and DMs over there as well. So I'm gonna kind of jump onto it, man. I'm gonna start with this XRP information, and we'll take a look. Of course, all my information is in light and in the perspective of the 19, so y'all got to keep that in mind, right? So let's zoom out a little bit here first. Let's see what. Hold on just a minute. Hold on, I hear a little beep. Let me see what that is. Oh, we got somebody trying to come in, so let me check that. Device not connected. You got to hit something. It's telling me if you can hear me. Looks like a rich, and I'll have you up soon as you hit it. Let me go back over here. So, nonetheless, right? I need to get my screen back up though. Here we go. So I'm gonna jump back to the weekly here. We had this impulse move, as you can kind of clearly see, looking at this more on a long-term scale, right? Zoomed out, I should say. We can see we clearly had this impulse move here, right? And since then, it has been, we'll zoom back, take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 good weeks of nothing but up, and we're getting a little bit of red weeks here right as we test and support. So that's kind of where we sit at the moment. Everyone knows that my thesis is kind of built off of these moves around the 19, particularly on the weekly as it applies to the cycles, right? So this shows you, like, good upward parabolic movement in the bull cycle of this cycle is what this is kind of indicating. And of course, everyone's trying to figure out how high is it going to go. We know what some of my expectations were before this movement. This has all been here for months, if not longer. And we're just tracking it, right? Other people have their expectations. And then we have, when is it going to be over, etc., right? So by my thesis, of course, the end of a bull run is when you get a confirmation under this weekly 19, and then you start to, trickle down, right, as it continues to trend downward, right? So this would mark the end of the bull run for me and going into your bear market cycle, right? As we can see, we're not threatening that, but I'm gonna make some great observations in comparisons to other previous cycles and make some assumptions, and y'all can kind of see what's going on in my head, and then kind of watch how it plays out, make your own assumptions as well, and do your own research and see if any of it eventually just makes you stronger in managing your investments, right? That's what all this is about. So I'm gonna drop down to some lower time frames here. I'll drop down daily first, and we'll just kind of show something. So within that weekly time frame, we saw that you just had the 5 weeks straight to the upside, and then some movement under the 3 EMA, but that was about as far down as it went, right? So it's very clearly bullish from a weekly time frame zoomed out. If I drop down here on the daily, we see kind of the same thing. The crossover of the 19 back over the 100, indicating this thing was very strong, and all of this movement as a consequence of that, right? So we get around here and we start to get this washing, right? As it's trying to figure out which way this trend is going to go from this area, right? And so in this, right, traveled along the 9, stayed very strong, finally broke the 9, 3 crossed 9, 3 is now threatening to cross the 19, as well as 9 going down. So we show this downward momentum starting about here on the 17th, right? And we can clearly see it. So that's kind of where we're at right now. A little bit under the 19, potentially getting across, and we can see this downward trend is going to start going down through these lower supports on these
higher numerical EMA. So that's where we're sitting right now. If you see this and people start giving you all kind of narratives, you'll know that the setup was here in the charts all along, right? And so it's another thing I'm trying to teach is like charts over narrative, and always look to this and then get your confluences from what's going on outside of the charts, right? But I'm going to zoom to something else to kind of show you all how this is really gets interesting as you look more in detail about this information. So bear with me here. I'm going to change some time frames and we'll take a look. So I'm going to drop down and I'm going to do this kind of backwards now. I'm going to drop all the way down to the 1 hour. All right. And I got to pinch this in now. All right. So within the 1 hour, let's go back. Within the 1 hour to calculate the entire move, I have to zoom back here because back here was that move over the 100, and then you see the run, right? And we can zoom in on what that all entails. But then you start to see that wash area that showed up on the daily, right? You can see the 19 cross back down, right? And kind of do what it's doing. So when you're catching these runs, right, what happens is all this stuff goes up and you're just in what I used to call blue skies because all of your EMAs are numerically in order here, right, at these tops, right? And then it starts to test these EMAs, right, for support. Now I could go down to like the 15-minute charts and show you when all this actually began in real time and how we would lose the 19 there, eventually lose the 100, get a 19 cross, and then go down to the next time frame, which would be 30. And then the 30 would have that similar pattern to lose its 100, and then you would drop down to an hour. And I'm going to show you from the hour working back up to the day how this plays out. So when I zoom in, we can kind of go back here and we see the environment where it got hot again and where I kind of call blue skies environment, right? So 3, 9, 19, everything's numerical order, prices booming, everything's pointing up, right? That's what you like. That's what you want to see. Now this is the hour chart that was tracking that movement to the upside. What happens is your 3 starts to fall, your 9 starts to fall, you start to lose your 19. So now your hour chart trend has turned, loss of 19. So you know that you're going to start picking up around your 100. All right. If you're taking trades on this, looking for rejection and then back out, goes below the 100, you know you're getting ready to get some good pickup down, right? So you lost your 19, support checked on the 100 as per this whole thing works. Reject it, lost your 19 again, you got out, lost your 100, you stayed out, got across, you knew to stay out for a while, and you started moving down, right? So what we're going to see is how all of this starts to work down time frame by time frame. Is at this point in time, we're around December the 17th. When I go over to a 2-hour chart, and we go around December 17th, right? Still looking very parabolic around to the upside, right? On this time frame. But you quickly see it lose, and then it starts to do the same pattern. Test the 19, right? Lose the 19, lose 100, get the cross 100. Now you're going to go down to your next chart, right? Which would be your 3-hour chart. And I think we get the point. So I'm going to skip right to, well, no, we'll go through it. Ain't no rush. I'll go to 3-hour chart. So we get around here. Very same pattern shows up. 17th was hot. You lose it. Lose your 19. Tries to, get support here. Loses the 100. Takes a rejection. Loses 100. Gets the crossover the 100 and loses this chart altogether, right? So because you don't have any more EMAs. When I say loses, it goes to the next chart. You don't have EMAs under here any longer, right? So you know that you're at a higher time frame at that point. So you go up to the next time frame. And so it's now just checking support from all of that parabolic movement, right, to see what is the actual long-term price that buyers are willing to pay as we keep checking support from that parabolic movement from what we saw starting around the beginning of this impulse move to the upside. So back again, 17th range, you start losing it, lose your 19. Did try to catch support on the 100, right? Did a rejection at the 19 again, and didn't lose the 100 here. So this is kind of where we're at in current time after we lost all the lower time frames 100s. And what I mean by lost them is we got the cross, right? Right here, we haven't quite gotten the cross yet. So if this 19 crosses back over or under, excuse me, the 100, right, then we would have lost this. And then we're obviously trying to figure out what's going on in the daily chart. Since price is kind of already under there, and you got your 3 cross, and it looks like 9 getting ready to cross, it's obvious that we're kind of already on that, but we just haven't got a confirmation completely on the 4 hour without this cross, right? So let's jump over back to the daily. Right, and this is going to stop at the weekly, and I'm going to kind of conclude this portion of this, so just bear with me. So now we're at the daily. So where are we at on the daily? We are sitting here just now losing the 19th, right? Which this is our smoothing rate. This is our pivot where trend turns, everything, right? 3 hasn't crossed 19 yet. Price is barely under it. So it looks like we're trending down, right? Even here on this daily, when that happens, right, that just puts in play the entire range, right, which goes down to the 100. So we're in a condition right now that 3 could easily cross. Price is already under. It puts all of this in play down to the 100 EMA, which is at about $1.30. Right now, you do have higher support, so it could bounce anywhere along here, but it puts the entire range in place. So it's not unlikely that somewhere around here, $1.31, $1.30, whatever, right, even a wick below, catch some support in this area would be likely. Right now, you ask yourself, is this likely as part of the end of this thing and we're just watching it go down, or is this likely in the context of what to expect in a bull cycle and this thing is really continuing, right? Because once you get to this 129 area, 130, right, 131, kind of top side of it, right? Let's go over to the weekly and see what that corresponds to and show you how important these bands and ranges are, these EMAs. So we know we have a important support here on the 9 at $1.71. Any hit and bounce here will just imply that this market strength is very positive to the upside because you haven't breached even the 9 on the weekly, right? Of course, pivot and everything rest on the 19, right? So that's your bottom line, and you want to maintain that. But any breach of the or support bounce on the 9 is highly positive. Any, downward pressure under the 9 would mean it's looking to find out where the real support is for this cyclical position, right? So right now, very positive, even though on a weekly, you could say you could get 3 weeks of downside because you got your 3 EMA pointing down. We're in 2 weeks of a 3-week minimum, and I could tweak this to find out how far, but we know up to 9 weeks we're still positive. So somewhere in between 3 and 9 with a generalization, this thing will continue back up to its upside, right? So to answer the question, is this thing over? You do have to do some comparisons to previous cycles and say, what does a bull market look like? So let's go back to one. So here, yes, here was our last bull market movement, right? So it began here, cross of the 19 back over your 100, you go up. We got, and this was kind of early because the flare announcement had a lot of people trying to catch an airdrop and all this kind of stuff, if people remember this time. So this was kind of an early move that obscured the charts a little bit. It came back down to kind of normalize. Then we got the lawsuit, right? That kind of obscured this as well. But the lawsuit didn't actually change the trend. And I tell people, to me, that was one of the most amazing things of that whole time. You see the 19 never crossed back over, price jumped right back on and continued the bull market just like the rest of the market was doing. And this is why I tell people, like, the market does what the market does in its cyclical nature, right? Even with the lawsuit, it didn't change its dynamics, even though the potential for the upside may have been reduced, right? But let's look how a bull market behaves. You have your movement to the upside. You have some breaches even of the 9 and supports along the 19 that get positive, that stay above the 9 and then go up. So bounces along the 19 on a weekly chart, right? As long as you don't go under them, right, are confirming that you still have a very healthy condition to find all-time highs or test all-time highs, see upward movement. So anything that you see testing the 19 is still positive in a full cycle, just as proven by the previous data here, right? So a lot of people say, yeah, but that was the lawsuit, that was this and that. Maybe that was obscure data. So let's go back to the previous bull market and see in a very exciting market, kind of even still, how did bull markets behave? So I'm gonna zoom in a little more because we kind of know that that cycle actually began way back here, right? Because remember, it's 19 crossing back over 19. You get your parabolic move up and then continuation of your cycle. So in this continuation, you knew it stayed very hot, similar to what we're seeing now. But it's what you didn't even breach the 19, right? This kind of looks very much like what we're seeing. I mean, the 9, excuse me, didn't breach the 9. What we're seeing right now, break out, ride along the 9, and then continue to move up. But let's assume it doesn't, look exactly the same, and we look at the totality of how a move to the upside can look. All right. Still, you get an area around the 19, straight move out. It gets far away from your 19, gets far away from your 9. Test the 9 at every point going up. So test of 9 are very typical of very parabolic movements. So when he taps on 9 right now, telling you that you're still very hot. Just remember that, right? In this move, it did have a cool off period that even kind of went under the 19. So some people would say, well, is that a breach and indicate that the bull market would be over if you lost your 19? It's kind of like a yes and no situation, right? You're monitoring it, right, to see if it's going to recover at any point. Anytime you get back above the 19, the hard rule is all in back on the table. So either way that you're reading that, right, you couldn't go wrong as long as you stick to the discipline of all in back above 19. How I read this, though, is it's a combination of other EMAs as well as where price is, because you know that this is just giving you a snapshot of the moment. This is taking consideration a lot of other data points. So because the 3 never crossed back under the 19, I would have considered this an obvious situation where the bull continues, right? Because in order for it to be over, right, you would have had to have a cross of the 3 as well as a cross of the 9 to tell you that it would have been over. So as I'm riding this, I know that I'm expecting this to recover with no breach of the 9, right? And certainly I get the recoveries. Test 19 goes up, test 19, 3 test 19. It showed all the signals of a strong market to all the market makers and whoever liquidity providers you see who were testing that thing, stayed above it, right? And then continue this move to the upside. But the point that I'm making here is that taps along the 19 on a weekly chart without any crosses particularly, right, still indicate a very strong bull cycle that can lead to very parabolic movements to the upside still, right? And then you kind of come over here if you want to see how that ultimately concluded, right? You ended up getting soon after, and very quickly so, right, your losses of the 19, right? You would have been kind of playing that how you played it. Even you say, well, I don't have a 3 cross at this moment. Maybe it's not over, right? So you can play that however you want. But as soon as you got a few weeks over, you saw that you got 3 cross, you got price out, right? That was telling you the first signs of over, right? If you needed any more confirmation, you got 9 under and you got confirmation it was under, right? So it was over. So it's just kind of how you have to play these things. I just wanted to share that so people don't be thinking the bull market is over. I know there's a lot of little questions out there right now in this part of the cycle, and I wanted to cover that information so y'all don't jump out of your bags too early, be led by narratives and other people's information. I'll just show you what the chart shows me, and then you make your own determination. In the future will tell us, what was right and what was wrong. I am going to just make a comparison over on Bitcoin just to show you this is not something that I cherry picked out as far as how price moves around these EMAs and how you can tell this information. So this is Bitcoin on the weekly, right? And interesting enough, right? We see even here on Bitcoin's weekly chart, it did in fact get across, right? Come back down, right? Test, recover, right? And go on. So even in situations where you kind of lose this, it's not the end of the world, right? Um, and I just like to show that this information will tell you exactly where you will need to be. Because if you took it as well, weekly loss, right? Weekly cross, right? Of course, then you took the move out, right? That's fine. But you were able to come right back in here. You got both crosses in. You know the hard rule is be back in. Hard rule is to be out. Hard rule is to be in, right? And then you go to the upside. So sometimes it doesn't really matter if it is the end or not, right? It just matters in where am I supposed to be in the position, right? Based on the technicals of the strategy. So really doesn't matter to me whether it's in or over, right? But we can make some generalizations using this information. It helps, right? Main thing is to know whatever you're playing, you want to be all in above a weekly 19, particularly with crosses to the upside. And you never miss any of that. So, but yeah, we can kind of go back through. We see taps all along the 9 is part of a move to the upside, which are very normal, right? We can go back a little further. And this was your cross over the 19 back over the 100 that gave you this big movement to the upside, gave you some ranging that then took a decision. This ranging here reminds me of what the altcoins are doing right now. So they had Bitcoin went first, right? Had this movement that we see altcoins having now. It had to consolidate, right? And then came back. So I think altcoins could be going through this moment here, even to see they may have some of this push down to the downside before continuing their alt season. But let's go back to a previous bull run before I shut this down and go back to a chart here. But here we go, previous bull run. Oh, no, we go back a little further. We want to show the cross out. Began here with the cross 19 back over the 100, gave you a little noise, supported off the 100. You even got some cross to the downside, got your actual 19 never crossed back under. However, that's very important to note. Continue in your bull cycle, because bull is not officially over until 19 crosses back over the 100, which is another thing I should have covered when I was talking about is it over or not. It's not officially over until 19 crosses back over the 100 on the weekly chart. But we see the continuation, and then we see how our bull markets behave, right, as far as how they move to the upside, even here with Bitcoin. They frequently tap 9s, they support 9s, they move up, they tap 19s almost as a requirement. They support 19s and move to the upside, staying above 9s, right? Using 9 obviously as clear supports as it continues moves. Using 9 as support as it continues moves and reaches its all-time high, right? You see crosses starts to tell you indication that you're losing your all-time high. Loss of 19 on the weekly is you're out. Cross, you know you're going to be out, and so on as it goes through the cycle, right? Got back above, all in, crosses, double, all in, right? Loss with crosses, no to be out, right? Got back in, no cross up, so you know that this was going to lean to the outside. Quickly went back under, either stayed out or got back out. All your crosses, you knew you're going to be out a long time, and guess what? That long time meant the bottom, right? Before you start getting put back in with all crosses, because the rule says support 19s, crossovers, and go on. So there's your information. It's proven by any asset, by the strategy. It should tell you that we're definitely not at the end of this cycle until the chart tells us we are. I'll make sure I wanted to share that as this end of the year kind of information. Hope it helps any of y'all out. I'll leave the chart kind of showing. One thing I do want to share before we end this year is I'm very happy for the people who participated in this. So let me jump over, change this chart out real quick. Oh man, is my chart went away? Oh no, I just stopped sharing it. Just a minute. Screen share. All right, let's check it. Yep, there we go. So yeah, I do want to send a big shout out end of the year and with everything going on, the people who participated in this coat issuance have done a great job. Shout out to the founder who started it all. But as you can see by the chart, excellent performance, right? And everybody has done such a great job. One of the things I'm most proud of, as you can tell here by the chart, is starting right around November the 25th, right? That was the bottom. And we've maintained a full month worth of upward growth for this asset, which I haven't seen any meme do, right? So this is very, very important and significant to me. It proves that the participants understand what they're doing. They're doing it responsibly. It means that we can see the signs of growth. The holders are going up. The LP providers are going up. So I like anybody who supports the XRP ledger to also support this endeavor as well. A lot of work has gone to it, and we're proud of it, right? So I'm certainly proud of it, and all the participants are. So catch a Colt Obey space. Y'all come through, ask any questions, take a lot of these best practices back to the asset of your choice. We're not tribal at all, but we do want to hope that people can take what we're learning that is proven to prove success, right, into these other ecosystems and start having some open and honest conversations. And let's see what the potential upside is when we open this tent up to everyone based on what we've discovered. Very sound pool that's producing based on the way it's designed. It's not simply a meme, and it goes into the whole story of why it's called Coat, why you see Obey, why it was done not through First Ledger, and everything about its design and issuance has a purpose to it, right? And it is that knowledge, right, that we want to make sure that people are aware of, so that we don't have this continuous situation where people are getting harmed, right, by a lot of these, issuance, meme coins, etc., even by people that have a lot of good intent, right? And I've spoken to a lot of them. I've seen a lot of these situations. These are not necessarily bad people, but sometimes we're just learning, right? And so they're going to make mistakes, and people are going to do nefarious things and all kinds of things that just leads to bad situations. But we just hope that people take the good and then build upon that. And that's the best thing that we can do. So again, shout out to all of the people who made this happen, because no one individual could. These assets are very, very unique, is why I really want to encourage people to come in and try them, because they are super scarce, right? They were some of the only coins that were ever created with very limited supply. Obey has like a total of 7 tokens in its totality. I think the totality for Colt was 6,669 or some variation of that, very similar. So they're very, very, very scarce assets, and they're generating returns, right, based on not just the price going up, but the engineering of it, right? So when you are a Colt LP provider, right, and you get in the Colt pool, you are rewarded Obey as a reward token. So you don't necessarily ever have to buy Obey to receive Obey. But for participating in the Colt pool, you will receive Obey, right? But we do need LP providers to provide liquidity to Obey. And so what we did was, when we created the Obey pool, Obey then had its own incentive structure, and part of its incentive is that you receive Colt LP tokens as a reward for providing liquidity to Obey, right? And so it allows you to compound these rewards if you want to, right, to continue for those rewards to build upon itself. And we kind of remove that rug pull dynamics by limited supply, very important, as well as Obey is 100% distributed through the reward system. So no one could go in and snipe and get a whole bunch, or because they have more money, they could buy more, right? It became a better distribution model that we hope people are paying attention to, right? And which is leading to these dynamics to make stronger pools, and you don't have the rug pool. Hence, the price of that asset is some 7,100 XRP per token right now, all right? So yeah, again, I encourage people to come in, participate in this. Let's grow a bigger tent. Each new participant reduces the risk for previous participants, and I think that that's very important. So we're hoping that ecosystem continues to grow. And wanted to make sure that I send a shout out to everybody. So yeah, I think that'll end what I'm trying to cover at this point. I'll see everybody down the road. I wish you all the best. And I'm going to leave this chart kind of running over here on XRP. Well, no, I just go ahead and shut it down. I'll make this short, make it easy. So again, I want to send out a big shout out to everybody. I'll go ahead and shut. Oh, so I had somebody try to come back in again. Maybe, maybe not. Who cares? All right. Y'all have a good one. Y'all know how I'm going to end it. Live love, love life.